We're about to get into the latest Knicks news and rumors and break down why a Donovan Mitchell trade is not another Carmelo Anthony trade. But first, subscribe to New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports for videos every single day. When Knicks news breaks, we get you guys a video. When Knicks rumors come out, we get you guys a video. And we also go live once a week. So if you're looking for a one-stop shop on YouTube that covers the New York Knicks, we're your guys. Lock us in. Hit that big red button. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Marshall Green. And in today's show, we're going to break down, is acquiring Donovan Mitchell for the New York Knicks just another Carmelo Anthony trade? Because I see it all the time. I see it in the comment section on these videos. I see it on Twitter. I see it on Instagram. Everyone always says, we got to be hesitant about the Donovan Mitchell trade because it's just going to be another Carmelo Anthony trade. But before I give you my analysis, I want to just get this out there. I think the Carmelo Anthony trade was a win for the Knicks. They got the best player. Sure, trading Wilson Chandler, Timofey Mozgov, Danilo Gallinari, and Raymond Felton sucked. But none of those guys were even close to what Carmelo Anthony was. It was the following moves that made the Carmelo Anthony trade not as successful as it should have been. But in my opinion, it's not even close. It's not even close to the same trade because the Knicks in the Carmelo Anthony trade gave up the bulk and the core and the center of their current roster. The Knicks will not be doing that in a Donovan Mitchell trade, and I believe the Knicks are more suited now than what they were in 2010, 2011 to make a trade, a blockbuster trade. But before we get into some deep analysis and a look back at the roster, is a Donovan Mitchell trade another Carmelo Anthony trade? Do you think history repeats itself and we're going down that line again of giving up the farm, as people say, for a superstar that can't be a number one on a title contender? Is a Donovan Mitchell trade another Carmelo Anthony trade? Let me know what you think. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let's turn the clock back. Let's go look at some history. These were the four big dogs in a trade for Donovan Mitchell. It was Raymond Felton, it was Wilson Chandler, it was Danilo Gallinari, and Timofey Mozgov. All of those guys were starters. Timofey Mozgov started to heat up before the Melo trade. He would have been the Knicks center going forward. So you traded essentially four starters. This was the full trade details of that Carmelo Anthony trade. Knicks got Melo, Sheldon Williams, Chauncey Billups, Ronaldo Balkman, Anthony Carter. And the Knicks shipped out Wilson Chandler, Raymond Felton, Danilo Gallinari, Timofey Mozgov, a first-round pick in 2014, a second-round pick in 2012, and a second-round pick in 2013. We know what happened. We know what played out. So I think we're all equipped to answer this question. Who won this trade? Who won the deal? Was it the Knicks? Was it the Nuggets? Type NYK to the New York Knicks. Type DEN for the Denver Nuggets. Let me know who you think won this trade in the comment section right now. Let's break down, though, right now, why it's not even close to being the same trade. This was the Knicks roster after they made a trade for Donovan Mitchell. Keep that L3 on for the roster court. They had Chauncey Billups at the 1. Landry Fields, Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire, Ronnie Turioff was their starting center. Sean Williams, Extra E Sean, Tony Douglas, Jared Jeffries, I call him Billy Walker, but his name is actually Henry, and Sheldon Williams. Who on this roster is a foundational piece? Chauncey Billups was washed at this point. Landry Fields was a young rook, but a second-round pick who had some potential. Carmelo Anthony's no doubt a building block. Amari Stoudemire at the time was supposed to be a building block. Ronnie Turioff wasn't. Sean Williams wasn't. Tony Douglas wasn't. Jared Jeffries wasn't. Henry Billy Walker wasn't. And neither was Sheldon Williams. You also had Roger Mason and Anthony Carter. Neither of those guys were building blocks. This was the 2010 and 2011 starting lineup for the New York Knicks following the Carmelo Anthony trade. You had Chauncey Billups at the 1. He was already over the hill. You had Landry Fields at the 2. Solid player, but a lot to still prove. You had Melo. We know what Melo does, a certified bucket, 26 points per game. You had Amari Stoudemire. He was great, but the injuries were starting to catch up from him. And you had Ronnie Turioff at the center. So think about that. We just showed you the 12-man roster for the Knicks when they had Melo and the starting lineup. Let's now take a look at the Knicks roster right now. They have 10 players on this team younger than the age of 25. That was not the case when they made a trade for Carmelo Anthony. That was a team with Melo that didn't have a lot of young pieces that could become great. The Knicks, they have 10 guys under the age of 25. McBride, Barrett, Reddish, Grimes, Quickly, Jericho, Obi, Mitchell, Isaiah, Jalen. 10 guys under the age of 25. Also, the Knicks are still loaded with draft capital, and they weren't after that Carmelo Anthony trade. They didn't have multiple first-round picks. If you look at what the Knicks have right now, they have a bunch of draft capital. 4 first-round picks in 2023. Some of those are protected, so they may roll over into 24 and 25. But you got 4 picks in 2023, a first in 2024, 2 firsts in 2025, and 11 first-round picks over the next 7 years. You are in a great spot to make a trade for a superstar compared to where you were in 2010, where you really weren't positioned that well to make a deal. Also, you still have a core on this team that is younger than 25 years old. If you make a trade for Donovan Mitchell, when you traded for Carmelo Anthony, all you really had was Landry Fields and Amari Stoudemire as building blocks. But if you trade for Donovan Mitchell, you're going to have a great 4 people, great foursome as I like to call it. Everyone loves a foursome, pause. But you got Jalen Brunson at 25. You got Donovan Mitchell at 25. You got R.J. Barrett at 22. And you have Mitchell Robinson at 24. That is 4 starters that you will have that are good players and not yet in their prime that you would have on this roster if you trade for Donovan Mitchell. Also, the Knicks are set to make a blockbuster trade. We talked about it. 11 tradable first-round picks. 10 players under the age of 25. At some point, you have to consolidate assets. You didn't get those picks to make 11 first-round picks. And you also didn't get to do it when you had 10 players on this team younger than 25. The Knicks are right now set to make a move for a superstar. I would argue in 2010, they weren't ready. They didn't have a youth core. They didn't have guys they could build around. They didn't have a lot of draft capital. Right now, they are. Also, the Melo trade wasn't the problem. It wasn't making a move for Carmelo Anthony that was a problem. It was what happened after that. We'll break it down. The reason the Melo trade wasn't the problem is because the Knicks got the best player in the deal by far. I love Wilson Chandler. I love Danilo Gallinari. Raymond Felton was great in that D'Antoni system. I also thought Mozgov could have been good. But none of those guys, after they left New York, could even sniff what Carmelo Anthony was as a basketball player. But like we said, it wasn't just the trade. It was what happened after the trade that made the Melo trade not look good. Amnestying Chauncey Billups over Amari Stoudemire, wrong move number 1. The Tyson Chandler trade, wrong move number 2. The Andrea Bargnani trade that you included a first-round pick, that was an L. You also didn't pull the trigger on a Kyle Lowry trade that was ready to be made, but you didn't want to include Iman Shumpert, so you couldn't trade for Kyle Lowry. Imagine if you had Lowry, Carmelo Anthony, and Amari Stoudemire. That's a team that could have been a legit threat in the Eastern Conference, and you never got a point guard to pair along Carmelo Anthony and Amari Stoudemire. It wasn't the trade. You got the best player in that trade, a 26-year-old generational talent in Carmelo Anthony. It was what happened after that made the trade not look so good. I do want to ask you guys this question, though, before we get on out of here. It happened 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 12 years ago. What are your thoughts on the Carmelo Anthony trade today? Type R for it was the right move, or type W for it was the wrong move. It was the right move. They got the best player in the trade. They just didn't make the right moves after that. But I want to hear from you guys because I value your opinions. Real ones, stand up. Let me know what you think. Type R for right move. Type W for wrong move.